Hey, good day to everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I know it's been a long morning of fascinating demos and information about the Domino and same time launch. Carol and I are going to talk today about HCL Domino Volt, as well as Eckert Seaman, a law firm that has a long history of Domino. But first, I wanted to welcome Carol and introduce her as the systems analyst, the application systems analyst, among many other things, as you'll hear later on at Eckert Siemens. So I want to thank you and welcome you to this.
Hi, Ken. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah, thanks.
being here.
So as I mentioned, we're going to talk to Carol's from Eckert Siemens, an attorney that are a longtime Domino customer, and they are just now getting into Domino Volt as part of a new low-code strategy, and it's focused around leveraging their existing Domino environment and their existing investment. So we're going to talk a little bit about the company, a little bit about their Domino use, and Domino Volt and some future plans. So very excited to get into this. So we go to the next slide. And next slide. Yeah, thank you. So, as I mentioned before, Eckert Siemens is a longtime Domino customer. I think back to 1998, with offices all up and down the East Coast. But I wanted to let Carol, could you tell us a little bit about Eckert Siemens, the types of practice that you do, and then the types of projects that you work on?
Sure. Eckert Siemens is a mid-sized law firm that provides legal services to businesses of all sizes. We represent corporations, municipalities, government agencies, universities, as well as offering legal services to individuals. And we have a nationwide presence and a solid history of providing outstanding legal counsel to our custom clients. As Ken mentioned, we have 15 offices, primarily on the East Coast, and we have about 300 attorneys and 560 users. I've been with the firm for 20 years, and over the years, I've held several positions. And currently, I am on the technical team, managing and administering the infrastructure software such as Exchange, Citrix, and mobile devices. And as Ken mentioned, I've been the sole Domino administrator for our environment for approximately 10 years. As you mentioned, we have been a Domino customer for since 1998. That started when Eckert was served as a national law firm for a specific mass tort case that started back then. At that time, there weren't many options provided for database structures for litigation. And so our litigation group wanted to find something that could hold the data and be user friendly. Eckert then decided to invest in Domino because it offered the stability and security to manage the data and also provide the flexibility to build on it. At that time, Eckert had hired a full-time developer, and our database footprint had grown with Domino to about 250 plus database structures. Although many were very simple in nature and straight out of the box, we had several. We have several trial litigation databases that are very complex in nature. So currently, we have about 50 active databases with 150 internal and external individuals actively using and entering data on a daily basis.
Wow. So, among the other hats that you wear there with the Domino, you've also covering, I think you said Citrix, you handle their mobile applications and environment, a handful of other applications, messaging environment. So being the Domino administrator, as it were, really isn't a full-time job by any means that you've experienced.
It is. It definitely
Yeah.
is.
Well, good. So speaking of that, though, as the applications grew and the number of applications and obviously the users grew, I think we talked last time you had gone through an upgrade. Now, can you share a little bit about that experience? When you managed, did you work with HCL? Was it something you handled internally? How did you go through that, and what did you come from, and into what version?
Yeah, we were on version 9 for a long time, and as you know, that we had some limitations with the size of the database structure, just because it wasn't built to be so vast. So when we upgraded to version 10, your tech support team helped me bring up the environment, to where it is now. So I really appreciated the tech support that HCL provided during that transition.
Yeah, so all those applications that had been built since 1998 just moved from 9 to 10. It was just a pretty seamless event, it sounds like.
It was pretty seamless, and
Yeah,
it, it
that's great.
and yep.
Oh, go ahead, Steph, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And as you know, we had discussed this back then in 2013. We moved off of the Domino Lotus Notes platform. Reason why the investment with Domino for the firm was because of the mail capability as well as holding the database structures. So in 2013, when the firm decided to move off of the Domino platform and move to the Exchange environment, that was a huge undertaking for us because we had so many mail files and archives already in Domino, and we had to do that with as little disruption as possible. That decision also caused a little bit of a stir just because our database structures are in Domino. So we were not sure if we were going to stay on the platform or try to find another possibility because of the investment that we were making in Exchange. It took us over a year, better part of the year, as we were reviewing different platforms, looking at different things to see if we could move the database structures outside of the Domino environment. But what we found out that with each product, there was nothing that we were going to gain as far as moving off of the platform. So we decided to stay invested with Domino and keep our databases, our litigation databases in its original environment.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing it up because that is something we see some of our customers moving toward is maybe their mail platform has changed, but because their applications and their business basically runs on Domino, the importance of keeping it there and the ability to still leverage all of that information, the history and the use, and also the ease of use. Your attorneys and associates are used to using those applications and not having to change them. And hopefully with the investments that you've seen in this and the recommitment to Domino on this side, it's further integration with different directories and mail services and things like that. That Domino at its core is that application server kind of going forward. So it's a great story and a good story to get through this, and you can still leverage what's there while still working in other systems. So Corey, if you can go to the next slide, let's talk a little bit deeper about your use of Domino, and go ahead and build this slide out. I think there's 3 in there for me. But you mentioned a couple of things of why you kept Domino, and it was this platform, the searching, things like that. But you have a number of applications, and you have a number of pieces around that. So what other types of apps do you have? You mentioned about 50 or so. What are the types of applications you have built there today?
We have a lot of trial litigation cases that are specific to each client. So there's a lot of routing that happens with those databases where, if somebody's reviewing something, it also contains a lot of content and attachments. They want it self-contained. And as you mentioned, and I put Domino's searching and indexing capability above a lot of other software, just because it is self-contained. We don't have to use other engines, and it's fast. I mean, I guess I consider myself a Domino advocate because it does work so well. Other structures that we have another case management that is web-based outside of the Domino environment. We built that specifically for one of our large clients, and though it works great, we had to use a third-party vendor to build that out for us, and is only specific for that client. So we are looking strategically on trying to house everything within one environment so that the multitude of softwares that we have, especially for lateral attorneys that come on board. They are bringing on their database structures that they're used to. And so keeping up with that software and administering those as well is a lot to do for the resources that we have, and we could spend that time and resources on other projects. So we are looking to Domino Volt to help us build out a solution for all of our litigation group, so that when they work from case to case, they don't have to rely on a specific software. They can just up and go, because it's going to have a familiarity that they have once we build this out.
Absolutely. So I think that powered by Domino, as you see on the screen here, is key, because that's where your data is, your applications, where things are. But bolting on Domino Volt to that solution allows you then to still keep that in a central location. You also lose your vendor dependency, really, to have somebody that has to maintain a separate application and maybe on a different platform. So standardizing on that, and hopefully through some of this, as we get into the application, this whole idea of building them quicker, not having to wait the traditional time to build applications, because the integration's there. All of the components around security, the connectivity to your directory services, all of the read rules and everything that go with your existing Domino applications and data are all part of that. And I think you touched on it here, is this idea of standardizing. You have one set of tools. So in the past, it was very similar with Domino, I think, that you mentioned earlier, is you built up over 250 apps just quickly because it was easy. You had I think you said you had one developer that did all of that over the time. So opening it up to a new set of users too, with a low-code tool such as Domino Volt, that's a simple drag and drop, similar to the Domino platform, but tying into that legacy data, or the data that's sitting back there, that you can access and put out. And even in the mobile, I think you mentioned you also have a mobile requirement around that. So Domino Volt being able to be mobile friendly can make a big difference around all of those components around that. The one application that you mentioned, I think the case management, you said it was built by a third party, and that it was also on another platform, and this is the one you're moving over. Can you tell us a little bit about the app, and then we'll jump into some screenshots of it, but a little bit about the application, is what it does, who uses it, kind of the size and some of the capabilities.
Sure. Currently, we have probably 30, 40 users that tap into that internally as well as externally. And like I said, we paired it completely for the client. It's specific for their case. And so because we're using a third-party vendor, and they've been doing a great job for us, but we would like to have some more control whenever we want to modify things. And I'm certainly not a developer. I can get myself around the Lotus Notes databases that we currently have, but we would like to try to bring that more on a internal basis, so that we can offer this as a service. IT could offer this as a service to the rest of the litigation community in our law firm, as well as other practice groups within our organization.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about those future items, but let's take a look. Corey, if you can go to the next slide. We've got a couple screenshots of the application, and Carol, if you can walk through, I'll fill in some functionality, but this first screen, we're just looking at, obviously, users logged in and can see a dashboard of cases that they're working on. What would they do from this point here in this screenshot, at least?
Sure. They would create a case, and then within that case, each of the there is content that is specific for that case and different plaintiffs. And what we liked about this, working with HCL, is that it provided a one location, streamlining the content for that specific case. And as you can see, there are tabs available there to kind of walk the user through adding more data within that structure, and to be able to call up all the information in one location. So working with HCL was a great experience. We gave them some visuals to show them what we were looking for, And what they did was they really took that and did a very collaborative approach where they came back to us and said, hey, you know what, maybe we could work on this section and provide a different user experience, or, maybe you haven't thought about this. And what we really appreciated was that collaborative effort to not just produce for us something that we wanted, but brought on a separate approach to say, hey, this may work better for you. So in that breath, we felt that our partnership with your development team was outstanding. And I will
Fantastic.
say that we were pretty excited to see what they came up with, and are looking forward to providing that to the firm and just introducing it to the rest of the firm.
Yeah, so when I look at this screen, there's obviously search. As you mentioned before, that was going to be a key component of your existing Domino apps. And obviously then now with the Domino Volt in front of those applications, being able to quickly search the information and surface it. Looks role-based, so you have different types of roles. I'm guessing there's security wrapped around it that your end users, depending on their role and what they have access to. Obviously, I'm sure this is sensitive content around that, and they'd be able to then work kind of from this queue. And what we don't show here is obviously a mobile-friendly view, so that if they're working on a tablet or even a mobile device, they can get through that. We can take a look at the next screen. So this looks like, once you kind of open it up and you mention those tabs, you kind of see the plaintiff and the litigation information, and they have quick buttons to be able to go ahead and update that information quickly, add certain codes, and use a lot of the rules that are easily built into Domino Volt to guide to make sure that they're filling out the right fields, that they're following some sort of workflow, and things go into this. So it looks like here they can add in more information about the plaintiff, and anything on this screen that stands out. And this is one of them I think you iterated through a couple different ways to make the usability the best.
Right, the usability and the approach of for people that are entering data, the workflow is already presented to them. They know where they have to start and the content that they need to put in. So as you know, if people manage their data differently, so this provides the ability to keep it uniform and structured without a lot of thought process behind it for the users. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think
Kind of
it's going to
guide them
work
through
great for
that
us.
with, yeah, so help the attorneys to guide through what they're doing. So on the next slide, I think we just do another tab here. Again, the ability to quickly add plaintiffs into this with a user-friendly, as you mentioned here, guiding the attorneys and their support staff through that process. So again, you collect the right information at the right time. There's not gaps, and you can enforce data and input into that, and then share that data. Obviously, all of the data that's in Domino Volt is easily accessible. So if it does need to feed into another system or be exported, makes it very easy through our REST APIs to get the data out. And then if you wanted to connect it to anything in the back end as well, extract either Domino data or even third-party data, I assume, to populate these fields and get through that. So on to the next slide here. So you touched on this a little bit, Carol, when we were just talking. So when you looked at different products, you originally looked at Domino and you spent that year seeing if there was something else. And you came to the notion that, it really is what runs the business and it does exactly what you need it to do. And now with HCL's investment into these products and movement around this, you'll start to see the, additional features and capabilities as an advocate of it. But as you looked at Domino Volt, what was it that, drew you to that, and then working with the team around that product and usage of it?
Yeah, when we looked at Volt and when you guys presented it to us, it really did check all of the boxes for us. I mean, it's low code, and as you said, that I'm not a developer. I mean, I can get myself around, but honestly, the low code was really key for us because, we don't have a huge staff as far as IT, so we wear a lot of hats, and so that was definitely key. It's extremely cost effective. We already have our investment in Domino, so adding that piece onto it is just just a plus, right? Because we can take that and leverage that Domino Volt at the front end, and then also tap into the existing database structures, which is the foundation of all of our litigation database structures in there. So that was a no-brainer to us, just because we know how stable Domino is and how secure it is as far as people accessing the data. For those of you know that if you don't have the right ID, you can't access anything if you don't have the security associated with your account. So that was definitely a plus. So my experience with the HCL team has been second to none. I work with a lot of different vendors, and I feel that HCL has really come and stepped up to the plate in helping us, look at our database and see that we can use it for other things. We're looking at once we do launch this for other practice groups, such as real estate, where they could leverage that by looking at properties in different localities or time frame for those specific uh, properties. And also for we have a lot of government agencies that we work with that have to deal with different policies and federal regulations that they could keep and keep tabs on. So there's a lot of use cases that we could have for our existing environment, and we hope to leverage that in the future.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the next slide, Corey, if you will. So when we talk about this for all the business users, and you mentioned it here, not being a developer and your team having limited development skills, Domino Volt obviously is going to accelerate what you need to do in the future with that. HCL, as you mentioned, helped you with the first application and kind of guided you through that. But it's something I think that once done and delivered to you, then your team's going to pick up and add enhancements to and build around, because of it is, once you kind of learn that and get through it. So it really is about getting the power back into the end user's hand. So whether that's from a developer standpoint or even opening it up, because you do have the ability, obviously, to do unlimited applications if you wanted to open it up to even the attorneys and their staff to build their own applications to keep track of things or personal productivity, or, as Richard mentioned this morning, our marketing team and other areas within your business around that. So the ability is to get people engaged, non-developer type skills, spin up applications quickly, obviously. So that's, the platform's there. It's already integrated with your security, as you mentioned. It already has the roles. If you're going after Domino data, there's protection already in that. And if you're going against other things with enhancements like the new HCL link that's now included with HCL Domino Volt, you get the ability to tap into databases, spreadsheets, other back ends that you might need to connect to, and really keep that, just like you're preserving your Domino environment and building upon that other investments that you have technology wise, being able to do that. So I think you mentioned HR, some of the areas around that, some other of the applications that are currently in Domino you're looking at moving. All right, and the workflow.
Yeah, we are looking at, there's so many use cases that you can have for this kind of application and creations. So, for HR onboarding, we that taps into so many departments, so the workflow process could certainly be built in if we created an application for that. So we also, have a lot of transitioning attorneys as far as, taking cases somewhere. So there's no limitation really. It's just what we can possibly think about using it for. So
Yes, and have
that.
the time to do. All right, that's not bad.
Yeah,
So on the next slide here, yes, we're running against laws of physics. So I want to thank you first off for taking the time, because I know it does take away from your multiple hats that you're wearing around this. So we really do appreciate you taking down some time and meeting with us and going through this, as well as working with our team on the application. But I do want to encourage everybody on the phone right now, as I mentioned, with the latest release that we just had this spring that includes HCL Link, as well as the improvements to workflow, the Domino connectivity in the back end. The multiple languages, obviously, that's something we didn't necessarily touch on here, but obviously something that you can build in the integration with back-end services. And of course, investing in and regrowing your Domino investment on doing that. So for those on that now, take a try. We've got a sandbox out there, and we've got some trials that you can download, some sample applications that you can get into, and you can become that Domino Volt developer for your environment. Now, on that same line, on the next slide here, Francois mentioned it earlier, and this is the thing that we want to get you started and going, and this is our commitment to you and how much we believe in what we're doing with this right now. There's two ways right now. Carol started on one with an upgrade accelerator. She was able, and her team, through some help with our support staff, getting ready and planning on that. Let's go ahead and upgrade to V12 in the next 12 weeks. You go ahead and get a Nomad app at no additional cost. So you can take one of your applications and turn it into a native mobile application. And then on top of that, similarly to what we did with Eckert Siemens and Carol's team, was this Thunderbolt, is what we were calling it. It's an accelerator. So if you go ahead and add Domino Volt to your existing Domino environment in the next 12 weeks, we will go ahead and build one of your applications at no additional cost. So we'll come in and we'll work with you. And I think, Carol, you mentioned here the kind of the iterative nature of the rapid prototyping and be able to get changes in quickly to see what it's going to look like, get that experience going, the rules and integration. We'll offer that now so that we can go forward. Go ahead and build an application for you, show you how easy it is, hand it back over to you, and let you start building those applications at that point. So we encourage you guys to reach out, talk to us about that upgrade accelerator, as well as the Thunderbolt accelerator. So if you go ahead and add Domino Volt, we'll get your first app up and going for you very quickly around this. And then lastly, on the last slide here, I do want to encourage you. I hope some of you have been jumping into the lounge, but coming up next is going to be the new Mail V12. Really take a look at what Barry's got to show here. I think it's going to be really interesting. Another customer discussion around what they did. And then in the meantime, again, Carol, thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for everybody for joining. And we're actually going to jump into the lounge here. It's a little chat box, I think, up in the top of your screen, or you can get to it from the main page. We'll be in there. We can answer questions and get some information out to you. So again, thank you, Carol. Have a great, fantastic week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, everybody.